It was late June and I needed a break. The city had been grinding me down. Endless emails, traffic, the hum of my apartment's air conditioner that never quite cooled the place. I'd been scrolling through travel blogs one night, half asleep, when I stumbled across a post about the Hanshin River in Korea's Gangwon province. The photos were stunning. Emerald water, dense forest, mountains that looked like they'd been painted. People in the comments raved about fishing, camping, the kind of peace you can't find in Seoul. I hadn't taken a real trip in years, so I booked a campsite for a long weekend. 3 days, just me, a tent, and the river. It sounded perfect. I drove up on a Friday afternoon. The air got cleaner the farther I got from the city, and by the time I reached the campsite, the sun was dipping behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the gravel lot. The river was even prettier than the photos, clear enough to see pebbles on the bottom, rippling softly under the evening light. The campground was basic but cozy, a scattering of tents, a few picnic tables, and a small office where the manager handed me a map and a key to the shower block. He was an older guy, maybe 60, with deep lines on his face and eyes that didn't linger on you too long. "You're from Seoul, right?" he asked as he slid the map across the counter. I nodded, stuffing my wallet back into my pocket. "Yeah, first time out here." He paused, his fingers tapping the counter lightly. "Just don't go near the river at night." "Okay, stay away from the water after dark." His voice was low, serious, like he was telling me not to touch a live wire. I gave a polite smile, assuming it was some local quirk. Maybe a warning about currents or wildlife. "Sure, no problem," I said. He didn't smile back. His face was pale, almost gray, and for a second, I thought I saw something flicker in his eyes. Fear, maybe, or exhaustion. Then he turned away to answer phone, and I headed to my site. Setting up the tent was easy enough. I borrowed gear from a friend, a sturdy 2-person tent, a sleeping bag, a portable grill. By dusk, I had a fire going and was searing some meat, the smell mixing with the pine-scented air. A few other campers were around. Families, couples, a group of guys in their 20s laughing over beers. The river murmured in the background, steady and calming. I remember thinking, this is exactly what I needed. That night, though, something felt off. I brushed off the manager's warning, but as I lay in my tent, the zipper pulled tight. I couldn't shake a vague unease. The campground was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves or distant hoot of an owl. The river's sound had changed. It wasn't soothing anymore. It felt heavier, like it was pressing against the silence. I told myself it was just my imagination, the way new places mess with your head. Eventually, I drifted off. The next morning was perfect. The sun filtered through the trees, and the river sparkled like glass. I spent the day fishing, though I didn't catch much, just a couple of small trout I threw back. I hiked a trail nearby, snapping photos of the mountains and wildflowers from my phone's lock screen. By afternoon, I was back at the campsite, grilling again, chatting with a couple from Busan who'd set up nearby. They were friendly, middle-aged, the kind of people who pack extra snacks to share. We talked about the river, how clear it was, how it felt like a secret tucked away from the world. "You hear anything weird last night?" the husband asked, skewering a marshmallow. I shook my head. "Like what?" He shrugged, glancing at his wife. "Just noises. Thought I heard someone walking around, but when I looked, no one was there." His wife laughed, swatting his arm. "You're paranoid. It was probably a raccoon." I smiled, but something about his tone stuck with me. He didn't sound paranoid, just uneasy, like he wasn't sure what he'd heard. I didn't press it. We ate, swapped stories, and by the time the fire died down, I was ready to crash. That's when I realized I had left my fishing rod by the riverbank. It was new, expensive, the kind of thing I'd kick myself for losing. Normally, I'd have grabbed it without a second thought, but the manager's warning flashed in my mind. Don't go near the river at night. I hesitated, standing outside my tent, the lantern in my hand casting a weak yellow glow. The campground was dark now, the safety lights barely cutting through the shadows. The river was maybe 50 yards away, but it felt farther, like the darkness was thicker down there. I muttered to myself, "Come on, it's fine. Just grab it and go." I started walking, the gravel crunching under my boots. The air was cool, heavy with the smell of damp earth and pine. The closer I got to the river, the quieter it got. No crickets, no wind, just the water's low hum. My lantern swayed, throwing shadows that stretched and twisted across the trees. Some of them looked wrong, too sharp, too human-shaped. But I told myself it was just the light playing tricks. When I reached the bank, my rod was right where I'd left it, propped against a rock. I bent to pick it up, and that's when I heard it. Splash, splash, splash. Not loud, but sharp, like something breaking the surface. My head snapped toward the water, my heart kicking up a notch. The lantern barely reached the river's edge, but I could see something out there, a dark shape floating maybe 10 feet from shore. I froze, my breath catching. "Hello?" I called, my voice sounding small in the open air. No answer, just the ripple of water. I took a step closer, squinting. The shape bobbed slightly, and for a second, I thought it was a person, just floating there, motionless. My stomach twisted, but I forced myself to hold up the lantern, trying to get a better look. It was a plastic bag, just trash, tangled in some weeds, catching the current. I let out a shaky laugh, feeling like an idiot. "Get a grip?" I muttered, grabbing my rod and turning back toward the tent. But even as I walk away, the unease didn't lift. My skin prickled, like someone was staring at me from the dark. I kept my eyes on the ground, refusing to look back at the river. Sleep didn't come easy that night. I kept hearing that splash in my head, picturing the bag turning into something else, something with weight, with intention. By morning, I was groggy but relieved. The sunlight made everything feel normal again. I spent the day exploring more trails, taking photos, even wading ankle-deep in the river to cool off. The water was cold, sharp against my skin, but it felt good. I started to think I'd overreacted the night before. City nerves, nothing more. That evening, I joined the Busan couple and a few others for a campfire. We roasted meat, passed around cans of beer, told dumb stories about our jobs. The river was calm, reflecting the firelight like a mirror. For a while, I forgot about the plastic bag, the manager's warning, all of it. But as the fire burned low and people started heading to their tents, that heavy feeling crept back. The air seemed denser, the river's sound louder, like it was whispering just below the words we weren't saying. I crawled into my tent around 11, zipped it shut, and scrolled to my phone for a bit. The signal was weak, but I didn't mind. I was tired, my eyes heavy from the day's hiking. I set the phone down, pulled the sleeping bag over me, and closed my eyes. Then I heard it, a voice. It was faint, so soft I wasn't sure it was real at first. It came from outside, low and broken, like someone struggling to speak. "Help me." The words dragged, each syllable stretched thin. My eyes snapped open, my heart slamming against my ribs. I lay still, holding my breath, waiting to hear it again. Nothing, just the river, the faint rustle of leaves. I told myself it was a dream, my mind slipping as I drifted off. But then it came again. "Help me," clearer this time, closer, like it was right outside the tent. My mouth went dry. I grabbed my lantern, fumbling with the switch, and unzipped the tent just enough to peek out. The campground was dark, the other tent silent. No movement, no footsteps, nothing. I scanned the trees, the path to the river, but it was empty. I zipped the tent back up, my hand shaking. The voice didn't come again, but I couldn't sleep. Every sound, the creak of a branch, the lap of water, felt like it was hiding something. I kept picturing someone standing just beyond the tent, waiting. By dawn, I was exhausted, my eyes burning, but I hadn't heard the voice again. I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination running wild. When I stepped out of the tent, the campground manager was making his rounds, checking trash bins. He glanced at me, his face unreadable. "You okay?" he asked. I hesitated. "Yeah, just didn't sleep much." He nodded like he'd heard it before. "You heard something, didn't you?" I froze. "How'd you know?" He sighed, looking toward the river. "Happens sometimes. Years ago, there was an accident here. A guy, about your age, Got caught in the current one summer. His friend said he didn't just drown. Something pulled him under. They never found the body for weeks. My stomach dropped. Pulled him under? He shrugged, his eyes distant. That's what they said, and it wasn't the only time. People go missing here. Drownings, accidents. The river's tricky. Locals say it's more than that, though. Say something's in the water. I didn't know what to say. His words hung there, heavy, and I couldn't shake the image of that plastic bag, or whatever it was, floating in the dark. I spent the morning distracted, packing up slowly. I'd planned to stay one more night, but the thought of sleeping here again made my skin crawl. Still, part of me didn't want to leave. I'd come for a story, for something to write about, and this, whatever it was, felt like it could be big. I decided to stay. Just one more night. That evening was quiet. The Busan couple invited me to eat with them again, but I kept to myself, sitting by my tent, watching the river. The sun set slowly, painting the water gold, then gray. By 9, the campground was still, most people already in their tents. I stayed up, my lantern on low, listening. The river was louder tonight, its current stronger, like it was restless. I went to bed around midnight, but sleep wouldn't come. I kept thinking about the voice, the manager's story. At some point, I must have dozed off because I started dreaming. I was in the river, not near it, in it. The water was freezing, pressing against my chest, pulling me down. Something wrapped around my ankle, tight and cold, yanking me under. I thrashed, but it held fast. My lungs burned, my vision blurred, and then I felt it. Something soft brushing my fingers. Hair, long wet strands, floating around me like a net. Help me, the voice said, echoing in the water, over and over. I woke up gasping, my sleeping bag soaked with sweat. The tent was silent, but the air felt wrong, thick, damp, like a storm was coming. And then I smelled it, a faint, fishy stench, like rotting algae. It was gone as fast as it came, but it left me shaking. I grabbed my phone, checking the time, 3:17 a.m. The battery was low, the screen dim, but I opened the camera anyway, needing to do something, anything, to ground myself. I unzipped the tent and stepped out, the lantern in one hand, my phone in the other. The campground was dead quiet, the river a black ribbon under the moonless sky. I walked toward the bank, telling myself I just needed to see it, to prove there was nothing there. The gravel crunched under my feet, the only sound besides the water. When I reached the spot where I'd seen the bag, I stopped. The river was calm, its surface smooth, but my phone's camera started acting up, flickering, refusing to focus. I wiped the lens, tapped the screen, but it kept glitching, the image shaking like static. My chest tightened. I was about to turn back when I saw it. Something was in the water. It was faint at first, just a shadow beneath the surface, but as my eyes adjusted, it took shape. A figure, long hair trailing like ink, arms limp, floating just below the current. My throat closed up. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The smell hit me again, stronger this time, thick and sour, like something dredged from the river's depths. I raised my phone, hands trembling, but the screen was useless, a mess of pixels. The figure didn't move, but it felt alive, aware, like it was watching me. I took a step back, and then another, my boots slipping on the wet grass. The other campers, there were people fishing nearby that morning, laughing, splashing, were gone now, their tents dark. No one else saw it. No one else smelled it. I ran. I didn't look back. I tore through the campground, my lantern swinging wildly, and threw everything into my bag, tent, sleeping bag, all of it. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, my pulse pounding in my ears. I didn't care about the blog, the photos, any of it. I just needed to leave. As I drove away, the dizziness started to fade, like a fog lifting. By the time I was a mile out, my head was clear, my breathing steady. I told myself it was panic, exhaustion, maybe even dehydration. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. When I got home, I tried to write it all down. I thought putting it online might help, like sharing it would make it less real. I posted about the river, the voice, the figure, leaving out the worst parts to avoid sounding crazy. The comments came fast, people calling it creepy, asking for more details. But then they got weird. "Go back," one said. "It's waiting for you." Another linked a photo I'd uploaded, a shot of river at dusk. But it was different. There was a face in the water, pale and blurry, staring up. The caption read, "This is what you saw." I deleted the post that night, then the whole blog. I couldn't look at it anymore. I don't go near water now. Not rivers, not lakes, not even pools. Sometimes in the shower, I feel it, a tug at my ankle, faint but real, like something still reaching for me. I wake up some nights, my sheets damp, that fishy smell lingering in the air. Doctors say it's anxiety. Prescribed pills I don't take. I saw a shaman once, on a friend's advice. He took one look at me and said, "You've seen it, haven't you? The thing in the water." He gave me a talisman, told me to keep it close for a year. The nightmare stopped after that. The smell faded, but I still don't trust it. I keep the talisman in my pocket, just in case. The Hanshin River's still out there, sparkling under the sun, drawing people in. I read about it sometimes. Another drowning, another disappearance. Locals talk about a village that flooded years ago, say the dead never left. I don't know what I saw that night. Not really. A trick of the light. Maybe a shadow. But when I close my eyes, I see her, floating, watching, waiting. And sometimes in the quiet, I still hear her voice. This story keeps the core elements of the original. Camping trip, eerie river, mysterious voice, unsettling figure, while grounding it in a realistic, dread-filled atmosphere. The open-ended conclusion leaves room for doubt, mirroring Mr. Nightmare's style of lingering unease. Let me know if you like any tweaks.